Morning. It is coffee time. So, I wanted to do a quick little overview of my setup and how I make different choices and adjust my coffee for different reasons, and then we'll get into pouring a shot for today. This is the machine. It's a Becerra brand. It has a really cool flow paddle, which not a lot of machines have. When it's all the way this way, it's totally shut and no water will come through. If you open it to like maybe half, it opens it up a little bit and then water can come through. The more you open this, the more water is allowed to go through here. This is, simply put, the pressure valve. It has a half mode where it's just sort of engaged, but it's not, I don't know the exact technical things, but this is what you can use for pre-infusion, and then you push it all the way up, and then it allows the machine to sort of go to full pressure if it isn't already. And that's kind of the MO for these guys. Grinder, I mostly hang out around the 0 mark, but adjusting it anywhere in this range is what I kind of work with. And my notes, I keep a lot of notes on my process so that I can see the choices that I made and then fix them going forward. So let's do a quick breakdown of yesterday's shot and what we want to change for today. So what this means, yesterday we started with an 18.7 gram at this grind setting in the Becerra basket, which has less holes than the decent basket counterpart. This one means that it will build up pressure a little bit better. This one extracts a little bit more quickly and it's really good for fine roasts. This puck screen also helps with water distribution and building up pressure. So this combo works really well. This with the Becerra basket. Okay, anyways. So this is a little prefix of what my puck is supposed to look like. For my process, I started with everything closed. I lifted this up to half, and for the first time, I didn't push it all the way up to here. I was like, I want to see what happens if I keep it in the pre-infusion mode the whole time and only move this guy. So what I did is I did this up to half, and then I slowly opened this and I let the pre-infusion start. Now what it's doing is it's going to start to build up pressure. However, if your beans are too coarse, there's a threshold that is kind of tricky to balance, but if your beans are too coarse or you don't have enough beans in your portafilter, it actually won't build up pressure. It'll try and it'll get maybe to like five or six at best, and it'll just extract and it'll be really runny and under extracted. And overall, it will not really give you the flavor notes that you're going for. That is a strategy. You can under extract coffee, but if it's going to have a specific impact on the cup's mouthfeel, it'll probably give you a very like tea-like consistency. And so if that's not what you're going for, then you're going to want to avoid that. So sometimes if you're pulling a shot and it seems under extracted, you can either make the grind more fine, or you can up your dosage, or you can run pre-infusion for less time. Okay, well, why would that matter? Because as you're doing pre-infusion, you're adding water to the coffee grounds that are in your puck, that are in here. When you add water to the puck that's in like this, up in here, the coffee that's in here is going to start to break down. Some of it is going to start to dissolve in that early pre-infusion right before it starts to extract. As it breaks down, if it's not balanced well, like if you don't have the right quantity of coffee in your portafilter, as it breaks down, it's not going to be able to hold pressure anymore. It's not like full enough. If you think about it, like if I only had coffee up to like a little bit, right? Only a little bit of coffee in here, and I push it through, it's just the water's just going to push through it. There's not going to be enough coffee in here for the machine to build up pressure, because the pressure only happens when there's espresso grounds that are pretty much filling this all the way up so that you lock it in place, and now there's tension. And now because there's enough tension, the machine can build up enough pressure, and then it can extract at 9 bars of pressure. If you have too little coffee or your coffee's too coarse, the water just runs straight through it and it doesn't build up pressure. So I decided to just mess around with pre-infusion with this round. So I opened this up a little bit. That adds a little bit of water. It slowly starts to get the water sort of marinating and pre-infusing at the beginning, which just kind of softens the flavor. And sometimes it behaves differently for different coffees, but it's a really good way to let the flavor of your coffee bloom a little bit. So I like to do pre-infusion. Then I just opened this up. Let's see what this is. After 10 seconds, open to half open. and then the pressure was building to 8 bars, which is a good sign. That means that it's not too coarse or too little. That means that I've got enough coffee in my basket. And then I said I kept the ramp at half. That's this guy. And then I closed it off at 50 grams out. So when my output reached 50 grams, I shut this off. And then I added 48 grams of water for a Americano. So 50 grams out is mostly to stay true to a coffee ratio that we tend to aim for when it comes to making espresso. Again, all of this is like, you'll start with a roadmap number, you'll get close, and then you'll see what you need to change. So if we started at 18.7 grams, think of that as like about 20 grams of coffee. You want a 1-to-2 ratio-ish, 1-to-3, 1-to-2 ratio when you're working with espresso. And so if you think about it, about 20 doubled is 40. So a true like 1-to-2 ratio would be 18 grams of coffee would yield about 40 grams of output. I wanted to do a little bit more because when you're working with coffee that has a lot of character like this, sometimes if you really stick to that 1.2 or 1-to-2 ratio, you actually almost clog up the flavors. And you end up with a really high TDS value, a really high total dissolved solids. And all of these flavors are there, but they're hiding and they are stuck in a essentially really concentrated cup of coffee. So by pushing it out to 50 grams, you're doing a little bit more than a 1-to-2 ratio, not quite a 1-to-3, but you're giving the espresso shot a little bit of room to sort of breathe and let these flavors come in through. That's the theory behind this one. The result was, even at 50 grams out, it still had really full body, really thick sort of mouthfeel. We got cherry. We did get the tea situation, the tea kind of flavor notes. Yummy crayon. it tasted like if crayons were edible. Don't ask me why. That's what made sense in my head. Fruity. It was like trying to be acidic, but it wasn't actually acidic. So at this point, what this tells me is that there's room for it to grow. Like there's room for this shot to grow. I'm going to push it to I want to let these flavor notes really sort of shine. So what we're going to do for that, I'm going to use the Decent basket instead of the Becerra because that is going to give you better extraction. I'll probably keep the screen. I could up because it's the Decent basket, I am going to either need to up my grind size or up my dosage to accommodate for the fact that it has more holes and it will extract more compared to the Becerra if I kept everything else the same. That's one option. I could also keep, keep everything the same except change the basket. I could do that. That would also potentially work. I'm going to do this option first. I'm going to do a Decent basket. I'll probably stick to 18.7 because I don't want to waste beans. And then I might up the grind size just slightly. So it's a little bit finer to accommodate for the Decent basket. I will definitely keep the puck screen. And then I'm going to follow this same recipe here and we will see how it goes. Machine is nice and hot and ready to go. One of the other things you can do is make sure that everything is, you can avoid thermal shock, which can have an impact on the taste of your coffee. If you have a hot shot of espresso going into a cold cup, the temperature immediately drops. And when temperature drops like that so fast in a shocked method, you can lose some of the volatile organic compounds as they escape into the atmosphere, which means you've just changed how your cup is going to taste. So if you want consistency, you try to avoid that. So I just put hot water in my cup. I'm going to let it sit above the vents so it stays nice and toasty. Tearing my water filter. Okay, let's see if we have 18.8. And we do. Okay, good. No retention issues today. Distributor. It's 3D printed. It's one of my favorite pieces. Now it's time to tamp her down. Make sure it's nice and even. We got lawnmowers in the back today, so apologies if it interferes. I want to make sure my cup is nice and pretty. And time for the screen to go right on top. And now, the moment we all been waiting for. All the way down. This is at 0. That's temperature. It'll also switch to seconds. This is main pressure of the shot that works. So this is the main dial to look at. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna crack it a little bit. Okay, ready? Go. And I'm gonna open this to about half. Good signs. That's good. It's going up. I want it to be a little bit faster. Build up to pressure, but that's okay. It is the decent after all. And I'll cut it off at 50. 33 seconds. Okay, not bad. Okay. Moment of truth. We'll have to see how this turned out. It's really hot right now. These are Kento cups from Japan. They keep heat really well, so we shouldn't have any temperature related issues with this guy. It smells really good. It smells a lot more like if you've ever had geisha coffee. Very floral, very sort of like light and airy. Ooh, okay. We're definitely in the tea neighborhood. Wait, I think we nailed it. Very floral, bright, not acidic, very balanced, a lot lighter body, which is good because I didn't really like that for the last shot. It's like easier to drink. The last one was kind of like, this is a lot, it's very intense. This is like, you can sip on it, it's very lovely. Raspberry. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So this is way closer. I just don't know how watermelon would taste in a coffee. But this is much closer to what that would be than the first one. Because the mouthfeel is a lot lighter, the texture is a lot lighter, it's a much lighter, like total dissolved solids. It also is this is also because it was a little bit under extracted. It only got up to like 6 or 7 bars and not all the way up to 9. So that's helpful. Okay, cool. I think we can do better. I want to try. Ooh, this is tough now because I want to let it breathe even more, but this one didn't even successfully get up to 9 bars of pressure. So if I mess around too much with it, it might just totally like not build up any pressure. If I try to lower the dosage, that's what my next step would have been. I can lower the dosage, but if I keep the decent basket, I'm gonna have to grind finer to compensate for that, which is in danger of getting like very acidic because the grind size has a really big impact on acidity when you get these really fine coffees. I think the decent basket though is where we need to go. Okay, decent basket. Maybe it's just maybe it's a shorter pre-infusion. Maybe I don't run the pre-infusion for 10 seconds. So I can lower my dosage a little bit, and then I'll keep the decent basket, keep the grind size. Technically, if you lower your dosage, you're increasing your, the odds that it's going to extract more quickly and not build up pressure. And so to accommodate for that, one of the other things that decreases pressure in your puck is a long pre-infusion. If you run a pre-infusion for 20 seconds, your puck is essentially disintegrated. It's not going to build up pressure. It's mostly dissolved at that point. So by comparison, if I do a really short pre-infusion, the puck is mostly intact, and so hopefully it's strong enough to like hold pressure. Even it doesn't have to get up to 9 bars, but 7 is pretty much a minimum for me for what my preferences are. And I think a little splash of like a little bit of milk or a little bit of like condensed milk, a little bit of like cold foam with this would be really, like a salted cold foam would really blow this out of the water. Just a little bit, like on top, would really smooth everything out. This is already really smooth. But it would, yeah, it would balance out the tartness a little bit more. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna do, keep the Decent, that's the brand, by the way. Decent Basket, keep grind size. We're gonna go to 18.6. That might be too small, but that's okay. Again, I want the flavors to have more space, and if they're still getting choked up by the dosage, then we can change the dosage and see what that does. And then shorter pre-infusion to compensate for the fact that we're dropping dosage. But I do really like the keeping the ramp at half, not pushing that all the way up so quickly, kind of letting it build over time. I've been liking that a lot for these beans. It might not work for all beans, but we'll see. Okay, closer. We've got 2 out of 3. That's a win in my book. Okay, if you want to see number 3, stick around for tomorrow.